Ciryl Gane or Jon Jones? Who is the hungrier fighter? Because there is a narrative being painted that because Ciryl Gane has gone out in interviews and said that he doesn't even like MMA, and word for word, he does not train for fights unless they're announced, and that he's lazy. People are saying, how on earth is this guy going to beat Jon Jones? Because Jon Jones is training his ass off, right? Jon Jones is one of the hardest workers. Who is another high-profile fighter that has been scrutinized throughout the entirety of their career as being someone with tons of talent but no work ethic? Someone that just doesn't train for fights that hard and goes out and goes on cocaine benders and drinking and driving escapades a week out of their fights. If only I could put my fucking finger on it. Oh, that's right. It's Jon Jones himself. But for whatever reason, fans have forgotten about that completely and are starting to say that because Jon Jones is the GOAT, because of his killer mentality in the cage and how good he is and how vicious he is when he's fighting, he is a hard worker and he's training his ass off. That's what he's been doing for the past 2.5 years, doing nothing but putting his wrestling shoes on and grinding day in and day out. I don't buy it at all. I think that this is a very nuanced discussion, and there are a lot of questions, and I'm going to answer them in this video. First, I'm going to talk about Ciryl Gane's mentality. Then I'm going to talk about Jon Jones's mentality. And I am one of the few content creators that is picking Ciryl Gane to beat Jon Jones. And this is another video that will help you guys understand why. So Ciryl Gane is saying that he's not training hard or training at all until he has a fight announced. He is a guy that has been lazy throughout his career. He doesn't even like MMA. That's what he said to a lot of the French interviewers throughout the past few weeks. And Jon Jones has actually reacted to some of these interviews in a way that I believe is a little bit concerning if you're a Jon Jones fan and you're rooting for him. And I'll talk about that later on in this video. But I do think that Ciryl Gane is a guy that is probably not the hard worker that Alexander Volkanovski is. He's not the typical blue-collar guy that is all about MMA, and that's the most important thing in his life, and that's it. It's just him and MMA day in and day out. That's all he's doing. That's obviously not true. But at the same time, there are some people that just make a point to come off as someone that is more relatable and to play it off as if they're not trying. Dude, Ciryl Gane is the kid who shows up on exam day complaining about how he doesn't even know what's on the test and how he's going to fail, but he still aces the exam because he's secretly been studying his ass off every night for the past 2 weeks. The same guys that'll show up to the court in slides looking disheveled like they just woke up at 3 p.m., eating Oreos and gummy worms, and a minute later they're dunking on you and absolutely schooling everyone on the court, trying to make it look like they're as lazy as possible. There are just some people that don't want you to know that they're working their ass off. Sometimes it's because they're insecure. In Ciryl Gane's case, I don't think that's the case. When I look at Ciryl Gane, I'm looking at a guy with no chip on their shoulder, with nothing to prove. I mean, look at him, bro. He's confident. He's rock solid. I think it's because sometimes these people that are so goddamn talented and good at things that do secretly also work hard at them just want to come off as more approachable. They want to be a little bit more relatable. Ciryl Gane is an extroverted, lighthearted guy that's always laughing and joking around. He's always got a smile on his face, and he doesn't strike me as someone that is putting on a facade at all. It's not like Jon Jones, who's out here trying to be a fake good guy. Ciryl Gane really is the gentle giant, and I think that because they seem so perfect, they can get the idea that it can be a little bit intimidating. And sometimes they don't want to make their personality about that thing. They want people to be able to talk to them as if they're a normal person. This is a guy that's friendly. He's an extrovert. He likes interacting with people, and you don't want to put them off. You don't want to scare them off. And sometimes they just want to be able to hang out with the boys. Ciryl Gane's I don't care attitude, in my opinion, is one of his greatest strengths. He has this seemingly pressureless attitude where he's just so goddamn loose that whatever preconceived notion most people would have about that opponent, Ciryl Gane doesn't have. His confidence is rock solid, and he seems to be one of the most secure guys. That's why he doesn't seem like he has a chip on his shoulder, like he has something to prove. Ciryl Gane knows who he is. He knows where his talents lie. There are no facades when it comes to Ciryl Gane. What you see is what you get. Ciryl Gane's attitude makes people believe that he's not training hard, but he's probably one of those guys that just doesn't want you to know that he's training his ass off because he wants to be a little bit more relatable. But there is no way in hell, ever since almost touching gold when he fought Francis Ngannou, in which I believe, as well as a lot of other fans, that he actually beat Francis, that he hasn't in any way turned it up, that he hasn't put his foot on the gas even harder. Firas Zahabi, George St. Pierre's head coach, was talking about this in his analysis of this fight. And he said that...
Because I'll tell you something, Ciryl Gane almost touched gold, and he's hungry. Once you touch gold, you almost touch gold, you go back and you're obsessed with getting that belt. For John, it's just another day.
When you get that close to touching gold, when you come that close to beating a champion, you want to become a champion more than ever in your entire life. That becomes your main mission in life. And I guarantee you, he is training like a hungry animal behind the scenes. I think that Ciryl Gane is fucking with people, and it's working, because if you look at all of Jon Jones's past opponents, what are they all saying in their interviews leading up to it? They're saying, this is the hardest I've ever trained. I'm waking up at 3 a.m. I'm barely sleeping. All I do is eat, breathe, and sleep. Jon Jones tape, videos. I'm doing it all. What do you think Jon Jones's reaction is to this shit when DC, when Dominic Reyes, all these guys are afraid of him?
Actually, he doesn't even like MMA and do it for the money, actually.
It's crazy that he says these things. That he doesn't even like the sport.
That's the same shit that he was doing when he was younger. So does Jon Jones feel like that guy that's an old head, that he's not intimidating this guy? This guy doesn't care. This guy is going to go into the cage with that ability to erase whatever preconceived notion that people have about Jon Jones, and he's just going to implement his style. That could be a little worrisome, because Jon Jones, everyone's talking about how he's the GOAT, and this guy is not respecting that. This guy's not treating me any differently. Interesting. And you see Jon Jones's reaction. When I'm looking at these reactions, I'm not seeing someone that is just laughing at how silly Ciryl Gane is. I'm looking at someone that is actually flustered by what Ciryl Gane is saying. It's almost like he couldn't imagine any of his opponents not getting on their knees and just being awestruck and in fear of him. Jon Jones, throughout the entirety of his career, has said to people like DC that they are not important, that it's all about his career, it's all about him defending the belt, it's about his legacy, and that those individual opponents are nothing to him. They're just stepping stones. I'm getting the exact same energy from Ciryl Gane. Instead, I'm getting this is just another fight vibe from Ciryl Gane. And if I'm Ciryl Gane, I'm looking at Jon Jones, and I'm saying to myself, this guy got his ass kicked by Dominic Reyes, who have a much shorter reach than me, who are a tenth of the striker that I am, a tenth of the athlete, and a tenth of the talent that I have. Do I really need to be worried about Jon Jones? Because I've been fighting guys that could put you out with one shot, and now I'm fighting a guy in Jon Jones that has absolutely no knockout power whatsoever. And this guy has had 14 title defenses, and a big part of his identity is being champion. All the pressure is on him. Everyone expects Jon Jones to be the same guy that we see in the fucking highlights with the beard, 2012, 2013, because for goddamn sure you're not going to see a highlight from the Jon Jones-Reyes fight or the Jon Jones-Thiago Santos fight. Is he really better? I mean, is he actually a better fighter these days? I don't think so. He's getting older. He's getting stiffer. And now if we're going to look at Jon Jones, as I mentioned earlier in this video, people are just saying that this guy has this killer Mamba mentality, bro. But let's be real. Jon Jones is the epitome of talent without hard work. A guy that's lacked discipline throughout the entirety of his career, going on cocaine benders a week before his title fights. A guy that is so goddamn undisciplined that he couldn't manage to stay out of handcuffs on the night of his Hall of Fame ceremony. Now, Jon Jones has been out of the cage for 2.5 years, but for some reason, this long amount of time makes people believe that he's been doing nothing but putting on his wrestling shoes and grinding day in and day out. It's all about the heavyweight return. But if this guy can't stay out of trouble in the limelight when there's cameras on him at his Hall of Fame night, what do you think he's doing on your average Friday or Saturday night? You really think that Jon Jones has kicked booze to the side, has stopped snorting lines and all that? This guy, when there aren't any cameras on him, is probably getting up to batshit crazy demon mode activities. Ciryl Gane might be chilling on a Friday night with his boys playing FIFA. Jon Jones is going to bed early? Yeah, I'm buying that all of a sudden Jon Jones, where he's not even married anymore and he doesn't even have the incentive of being a good man because he's still got a wife and all that, is definitely the guy who's going to bed early on Friday night when he has no fights coming up. This is a guy that is going out to party during training camp. What do you think he's been doing for the past 2.5 years when he's had no fight announced? Because I am not convinced that Jon Jones all of a sudden adopted the mindset of being a mature, disciplined guy. He's the same guy. Maybe he's a tad bit more disciplined now because he's a little bit older, but let's be honest, he's probably still drinking every other night. He's probably getting hammered on the weekends. And I don't understand why fans just all of a sudden think that this guy just because he's the GOAT and you can relate him to other GOATs because of the mentality they have during their competition, is also going to have that same discipline and drive outside of competition. It just has never applied to Jon Jones. Another thing that I want to bring up is the fact that Jon Jones is still going to be the GOAT whether or not he loses this fight. He has 14 title wins, for God's sakes. Is this next title going to be that much more significant in his life? And Jon Jones, a big part of his identity is being an undefeated fighter, a champion and all that. And I think that that's important to him. Again, he has been on top for so long. Is he really taking it to the next level here? I don't even know if this is really that important to him. His words might suggest that it is, but his actions prove otherwise. If Jon Jones wasn't acting like the title meant everything in the world to him back in the day, what makes you think that it does now? I don't think he's ever fought a guy that's this cool and calm leading into a fight, that's this confident. And who has more pressure? It's Jon. Everyone expects Jon Jones to come back and wreck house. Everyone is saying that Ciryl Gane got taken down by Francis Ngannou. And although when you're fighting Francis Ngannou, the last thing you're thinking about is a takedown because you know that at any moment, this guy who can produce the force of a fucking Ford Escort could put you into the fucking graveyard with one shot. Oh, all of a sudden you're going to be worried about the takedown. But hey, Jon Jones should be able to wreck house, right? He should be able to steamroll him. That's what a lot of people are saying. They want the 2015, 2012 version of Jon Jones that you see in the edits to come back.
I've fully joined the Jon Jones bandwagon after watching his early career, and I kind of hope we're going to see that creativity out of him again because he may well be the best talent we've ever seen in mixed martial arts.
People expect that old Jon Jones to show up, and I don't think that Ciryl Gane has that much pressure because if he loses to the GOAT. He's still young. He's still fresh in his MMA career. Even as a heavyweight who is in his 30s, that's very young. Ciryl Gane is rolling up here, cool as a fucking cucumber, man. Like, Bone Gamin's going to be chilling the whole fight week. Jon Jones has a lot to prove. Because if this guy shows up looking like the version of him that showed up against Reyes, the fans are going to not let him hear the end of it. Again, you saw Jon Jones react to those clips. You saw Jon Jones get a little bit shocked hearing those things from Ciryl Gane. He can't even believe his own ears. And Ciryl Gane knows he's going in to fight a guy with no power. What do you think he has to fear with Jon Jones? The takedown? Okay. Getting submitted, maybe. I think he's ready for that. I think now that he's not fighting Francis Ngannou, a guy where he basically only has to worry about getting punched in the face. That's what you really have to worry about when you're fighting Francis. Just don't get hit. For God's sakes, fuck the takedown threat. Just don't get hit on the feet. You're ready for the takedown against Jon Jones. You're willing to take a couple of big shots from Jon Jones, pillow hands. What do you guys think about this? Who do you think has the mental edge in this fight? Because again, man, does another title win really mean that much for Jon Jones? Until next time.
Damn, no wonder you can't put on any size. You can't even get past the first couple bites of that meal. You keep eating all that dog shit, that broiled chicken. I'm gonna show you how to spice it up in the kitchen.
We're rocking with butter chicken. This ought to put on some mass. We're rocking with some ginger garlic paste, red chili pepper, salt. And we're gonna mix that up, toss it on a pan with some ghee, stir that up, and right before it's done, put it aside. We're gonna use the same pan, some tomatoes, grass-fed butter, onions, right? Stir that up, let it simmer. We're gonna add some brown sugar, garam masala powder, a handful of cashews, and a little more red chili powder. Blend that shit up in a blender. We're gonna put some more butter on the pan. Pour that blended sauce up, add some heavy cream, put the chicken back in, stir that up, and you got yourself one of the most gorgeous, delicious meals you could ever imagine. This will put on some size. For more meals like this, guys, check out my Real Food Cookbook.